Hey everyone, today I'm going to be making a spooky, dead, leafless, Halloween, autumn in New England style kind of tree for a miniature or a Halloween decoration, which is basically what I used it for. I needed a spooky dead tree for a diorama I was making that had a little light up jack-o'-lantern, some scary gravestones, yellow dead grass, and I didn't film the entire diorama making process. I didn't even think to make a video of this until I got to the tree. So maybe I'll make videos of how to wire up a little jack-o'-lantern like that, some of the other diorama processes that I went through to get there. But for now, you'll just have to see how I made the tree for this particular project. So I started by grabbing some fairly heavy gauge craft wire and cutting maybe 8 to 10 strips about 8 to 10 inches long. A little variation in the length can actually be a good thing later on, so don't worry about getting them all even. With my bundle of sticks in hand, I started twisting a couple inches from the end. I did most of this by hand, but a set of pliers came to the rescue a few times. Once I wrapped all the wire about 1/3 to 1/2 the length of the bundle, I started branching off the main trunk in groups of 2 to 3 wire pieces. I think I was actually using a reference photo of a dead tree while doing this as well, which is helpful in getting some realistic looking branches and just kind of getting a form that looks similar to an actual tree that you'd see in nature. When I was happy with the general branch structure of my spooky tree, I made a few roots with the untwisted wire at the bottom of my bundle. A few adjustments to the branch and root positioning, and I had the base form of my spooky, scary dead tree. Next, I grabbed a fairly light gauge of craft wire and started cutting some pieces that I wove and twisted onto the branches for some smaller detail branches. On some of these smaller branches, I would create a loop with the wire that I could then cut into 2 after they were wrapped around a larger branch. And once I was happy with the overall branch layout of my spooky tree, I used some pliers to adjust it so it would look good in 3D space. I think it's easy to focus on one particular viewing angle with things like this, so I made sure the tree would work well as a 3D object from any angle. I also think having a lot of twisting, gnarled branches and roots gives the tree that classic spooky Halloween vibe I'm going for, almost kind of cartoonish looking. And after all the twisting and forming of the kind of skeleton of the tree was done, I grabbed some polymer clay and started covering the wire with it. And admittedly, this step kind of sucked. I used Sculpey Primo for this, but in retrospect, I don't think this was the right clay for this job. It's just too crumbly and stiff. So it was super fiddly getting it over some of the wire, especially those little detail branches. It just kind of kept falling off, the wire would break through, and I spent way longer than I probably should have just getting full coverage over the wire. Next time I do this type of project, I think I'll try a slightly softer, more blendable clay like Super Sculpey. Clay choice woes aside, I persevered and eventually got the wire covered in the polymer clay. And for some reason, I did not film the next step because I'm horrible at my job, but it was pretty straightforward. Basically, I used a craft knife and some sculpting tools to carve a bark texture and some other details like knots into the clay. And here's what it looks like, all detailed up and baked, ready for some paint. In terms of painting, I kept that pretty simple too. My first coat was basically just some unadulterated burnt umber straight onto the baked tree base. Since it was white, I didn't really prime it or anything. I just made sure that I got it into all the little crevices because I wasn't planning on doing washes or anything either. So it was gonna act as the dark, shadowy layer in all the creases, cracks, and crevices on the tree. And once I had my most umberous base coat finished, I basically just started mixing lighter and lighter shades of brown using burnt umber and more yellow ochre, and just did layer after layer of dry brushing. I really hadn't planned to do any sort of washes or any advanced paint techniques on this from the start, since I was also planning on putting moss and some other things that would obscure that paint job when I finally got it onto my diorama. But you paint your spooky tree however you want to. You can get as detailed or as simple as you want, whatever looks good at the end of the day. After I was done painting, I had what I think was a pretty cool looking spooky Halloween tree. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it helps you make a spooky tree of your own. I enjoyed making my spooky tree, except for putting the clay on the wire. I did not enjoy that part so much. I'm not really sure when I'll be making more videos like this, but I also kind of enjoyed making the video, so hopefully soon. But make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell, do all that stuff to know when I do release another video. I would recommend not smashing the like button because you'll probably break your computer or smash your cell phone. So maybe just a tap or a click would suffice in that regard. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.